Okay, let's unpack this. The mission: finding trustworthy English-speaking childcare in, well, a massive, complex city like Beijing. It can feel less like hiring and more like this huge research project, right? Mixing logistics, cultural understanding, and immigration law. So this deep dive is definitely for you if you need that essential guide, the shortcut, really, to finding the right fit without just drowning in paperwork and worry.
Yeah, we're diving into the source material to pull out the reliable ways to search, the absolutely critical vetting steps you cannot miss, and importantly, the legal stuff, the contracts, the visas, all that. The goal today is basically to give you clarity, turn this big task into, manageable steps.
Right, so let's start with the basics. Where do you even begin looking? The sources seem pretty clear that just relying on, say, local ads or only word of mouth can be, well, risky, especially if you're looking at international candidates.
Exactly. Specialized agencies often come up as the recommended first step.
And why is that, specifically in Beijing?
Well, what's interesting is how they act as a shortcut there. They're navigating these local hurdles, things an individual family would really struggle with. They often tap into a pool of international candidates, maybe through au pair agencies focused on cultural exchange or more specialized nanny services. These people often expect to work abroad.
And the admin help sounds like a big plus. Initial screening, background checks, even helping with the visa prep, which can be complicated.
It really can be, but it's important, like you said, to distinguish between the types of help you get through these agencies.
Okay.
Absolutely. We kind of see two main types coming through. First, you've got candidates from specialized nanny services. These folks often have formal qualifications, maybe early childhood education training, and they're looking for dedicated childcare jobs.
Right, professional nannies.
Pretty much. Then second, you have cultural exchange programs like au pairs.
And the sources make a really critical point about that second group, the au pairs. While they help with childcare, their main legal purpose, in China at least, is meant to be mutual learning and cultural understanding.
Exactly. So families have to be really sure that if they go the cultural exchange route, the reality of the job matches that legal structure. If you need a full-time professional nanny strictly for childcare, you absolutely must use a path that supports the right work authorization. We'll definitely dig into that more later.
Okay.
But the core benefit of using an agency, generally speaking, stays the same. You get pre-vetted candidates, help with the legal framework, and support during the placement.
Okay, so moving on, this is where it's really specific to hiring internationally, I think.
Mm.
The vetting. So an agency gives you some candidates, but the vetting, that's all on the family, isn't it? And it's got to be more than just checking their English level. What do families need to focus on?
Yeah, you need real depth on their experience tied to your specific needs. Don't just ask how many years. Ask about the roles they held. What age groups are they genuinely comfortable and experienced with? Do they have actual training? Things like first aid, maybe early childhood education certificates. And importantly, if those qualifications are from overseas, how can you actually verify them? That's something to ask the agency or figure out.
That brings up a big one from the sources. Background checks. Agencies often say they do them, but is that enough?
Yeah.
What should a family really be asking for?
Safety first, always. The source's stress verification is the bedrock of trust here. You need solid proof of identity checks and criminal record checks. For foreign staff in Beijing, there are often specific checks needed through the Public Security Bureau. So you should ask the agency exactly what records they check and how they verify them. And look, if you're hiring directly without an agency, getting a third-party service for these checks is just a must-do cost. Non-negotiable.
Okay. What about references? I know a lot of people just look at the written ones submitted to the agency. Is it really worth the effort to speak to a previous family, especially if they're, maybe back in their home country now?
Oh, 100% worth the hassle. Trust isn't something you can just outsource. You need to talk to those previous employers and ask specific questions, not just were they good. Ask, describe their reliability, or how did they handle a tricky discipline situation? And definitely ask, why did they leave that job? An agency might give you a polished summary, but you need the unfiltered version to really gauge the fit and any potential risks.
Makes sense. Beyond safety and skills, there's the cultural fit piece, especially in a place like Beijing. Different ideas about food, discipline, even screen time. How does vetting tackle that potential friction?
Well, you need to get practical. Use scenarios based on life in a big Chinese city. Ask things like, okay, it's a really bad air quality day. Kids can't go outside. What's your plan? Oh, or maybe, how comfortable are you using the Beijing subway or dealing with taxis for school runs? These questions test logistics, but also alignment on safety and daily life. Ultimately, Clear, open communication right from the start is the only real way to bridge any gaps in childcare approaches.
Right, so we figured out who they are and how reliable they seem. The sources really emphasize that the next big potential problem area is defining what they actually do.
Yeah.
How do families prevent that dreaded duty creep and make sure everyone's on the same page from day one?
Yeah, this is crucial. A super detailed job description becomes like the cornerstone of the whole relationship. It needs to spell out the three main areas of responsibility very clearly. First, core childcare and educational support. That's the basics, feeding, bathing, safety, but also includes things like reading, helping with homework, maybe playing language games, whatever aligns with the family's goals.
And that educational part has to match the kids' ages, right? Someone great with babies might not be equipped to help with, say, primary school math homework.
Precisely. That needs mapping out up front. Second category, daily routines and logistics. List the specific, non-negotiable tasks. Managing nap times, prepping meals and snacks for the child, doing the school drop-off and pickup. Maybe even mention if they need to use a specific local app for school updates or health tracking, which is common there.
Okay. And the third one, child-related household management. The sources were really specific here.
Very specific. It has to be light duties and only related to the children. Think doing the kids' laundry, tidying their rooms or play areas, washing the children's dishes, keeping toys organized.
So not general family chores.
Absolutely not. The sources really warn against asking the nanny to do the parents' laundry or clean a whole house or cook for the entire family. That is textbook duty creep. And it's probably the fastest way to cause problems in the working relationship. Every single duty needs to be listed and agreed upon, ideally in writing as part of the contract.
Okay, so connecting this all up. Legal clarity in Beijing isn't just nice to have, it's essential. It protects both the family and the nanny. Let's dive into what the sources called the big one, the legal and contractual foundation.
Right. This is arguably the most critical part for foreign employers hiring foreign staff there. You absolutely must have a formal, detailed employment contract. This isn't just a handshake agreement, it's a legal document covering everything we just discussed. The detailed job description, the full compensation breakdown salary, overtime rate, how and when they get paid, plus holidays, leave entitlements, and crucially, the termination clause. And honestly, we'd strongly recommend getting this reviewed by a legal consultant who knows Chinese labor law. It's worth the investment.
Okay, now for the really high-stakes part, visas and work permits. If you're hiring a foreign national, this responsibility usually falls on the employer, the family. What exactly is needed? What's the mandatory sequence of permits for someone to work legally as a nanny?
Yeah, the process is very strict, and the order matters. For a foreign national to legally work as domestic staff or a nanny in Beijing, they generally need a Z visa. That's the specific work visa category. The steps basically are, first, the employer of the family has to get a work permit notification letter from the authorities. Second, the nanny candidate uses that to apply for and receive the Z visa before they travel to China. That pre-arrival requirement is super important. Then, once they arrive in China on the Z visa, they need to convert it into a residence permit fairly quickly, which allows them to live and work there for the duration of the contract.
You mentioned earlier the difference between a work visa and, say, a cultural exchange visa. What happens if a family tries to, cut corners and hire someone full-time on a student visa or one of those cultural visas instead of the Z visa? What's the actual legal risk?
Oh, the risk is huge. You really can't overstate it. Using someone on, say, a cultural exchange visa, which specifically isn't for professional work, purely for full-time childcare, that's straight up illegal employment. If the authorities find out, you're looking at immediate deportation for the employee, for the family, potential large fines, maybe even legal action. China's legal system does protect domestic workers, and illegal employment is taken very seriously.
Wow. Okay, so that's probably the single most important piece of legal advice right there. Avoid massive legal trouble by just doing the Z visa process correctly from the start. Are there other administrative things employers need to be ready for during this whole visa and permit process?
Yeah, definitely be prepared to provide various documents to the local public security bureau. This often includes things like the employee's health check certificate, maybe authenticated copies of their university degree or professional qualifications. The whole thing just requires the employer to be really diligent and manage their time well to make sure everything stays legal and up to date.
Okay, so you've navigated the search, the vetting, the contract, the visa maze. You've hired someone.
Yeah.
But the work isn't over, is it? Building that stable, trusting relationship seems key.
Absolutely. This is all about fostering a real partnership based on respect. It means sitting down regularly to talk, not just give instructions, discuss the details, your approach to discipline, your rules about screen time for the kids, how you prefer to communicate, maybe a quick daily log, maybe a chat at the end of the day. Don't just assume you're on the same page.
The sources also mention treating the nanny as a professional. What does that actually look like day to day?
Well, it starts with the basics. Being punctual with payments, honoring every part of the contract. But it's also about showing you value their skills and expertise. This could even mean thinking about professional development. For instance, if they're interested, maybe offering to pay for a certified first aid course in Beijing, it shows you value them, and honestly, it directly improves the care your kids receive.
That's a great point. But let's quickly loop back, because
Yeah.
maybe not every family needs a full-time live-in person. What were the alternatives mentioned?
Right, good point. For occasional help, date nights or emergencies, babysitting services found online can be great for just hourly care. The sources also mention mother's help roles. It's useful to define that term, maybe for listeners not familiar with it. It's basically someone who assists the main caregiver, shares duties, often part-time or live-in, but they aren't the sole person in charge.
Got it. Kind of like an extra pair of hands.
Exactly. And then there's the more specialized option, tutor and companion services. This is interesting. If you want to combine supervision with specific educational goals, you might hire someone specifically to help with homework, practice a language, or develop a certain skill, often someone with a teaching background, perhaps.
So wrapping up, finding English-speaking help in Beijing. It's complex, no doubt,
Hmm.
but it sounds totally achievable if you're focused. Use agencies wisely, do thorough background and reference checks.
Uh-huh. Establish those roles super clearly to avoid any duty creep later on, and critically, stick to the legal requirements for employment, especially that Z visa process.
Yeah, the sources really paint a picture where, okay, the admin and legal stuff is tough and non-negotiable, but the long-term success really hinges on mutual respect and making sure every little detail, from who does the kids' dishes to the visa paperwork, is clearly defined and agreed upon in that contract.
Absolutely. So maybe our final thought for you to consider is this. Think about supporting your nanny's professional growth training, resources, maybe even language support, not just as an extra cost, but as a direct investment. Because ultimately, the person who benefits most from their improved skills, it's your children. Through better quality care and safety, it's an investment in them.
Something to really think about. Go forth and apply this knowledge. End of deep dive.